Months after a beloved grandmother was gunned down outside these community housing buildings in Riverdale, Mayor John Tory is putting pen to paper. He's asking the province to give TCH sweeping powers to keep criminals out of buildings like these.
It's saddening. Like, something has to be done.
An emotional call for change from the husband of Peggy Ann Smith. John demanding the eviction of criminals from TCH buildings back in November after his wife was gunned down in August. Smith was not the intended target. She was hit by one of 10 bullets while she was sitting on her granddaughter's back porch.
It hurts. It hurts.
Today, nearly 2 years after the mayor first spoke of getting rid of the so-called thugs and drug dealers who have taken control of TCH buildings and units, he asked for executive committee support in sending this letter to the province. In it, he asked for 2 big changes to provincial legislation. The first would allow TCH to refuse to rehouse a tenant who's been evicted already for criminal issues. The second would allow security to refuse entry to problematic guests.
So we're now going to make the formal request, which will mean there will be less excuse for inaction. I think there are changes that should be made.
The challenge we have is that what happens is if the person is evicted, then they could easily become a priority for return because they're without housing. So even though they may have done something illegal or highly disruptive to everyone else who's living in the community, we have no choice but to rehouse them and cannot screen them out.
Since 2015, TCH has started eviction proceedings against more than 230 tenants for guns, violent crime, and drugs. Less than a quarter were successfully evicted. 50 people in total kicked out. Another 80 remain in the hearing process.
This is a good start. There's many eviction policies that TCH has for cause and non-payment of rent. I think sometimes it's easier to get rid of someone who isn't paying their rent than it is to have a criminal removed from TCHC.
But what about rehabilitation? The head of the TCH telling City News that changes would not mean someone with a criminal record who served their time would no longer be eligible for public housing.
We're not looking to preclude folks like that. We're just looking to make our community safer, and you got to start somewhere.
And Mayor John Tory's motion passed executive committee this afternoon and it will go to City Council next Wednesday. Meanwhile, a community council passed a motion to rename this public lane in honor of Peggy Ann Smith. It will now be named the Peggy Ann Smith Laneway, and that comes after 200 residents petitioned to make the change in honor of the slain grandmother.